Intuition, it's like our sixth sense. You can't see or taste or touch or whatever. It's just there. I could sense that people's morale was low and that we needed something.
We're cutting parts of ourselves out. And that is reflected in the larger structure of the way that business runs.
People don't believe that their intuition is right. And maybe it's not that it's right or wrong, and trying to get people to stop thinking in terms of right or wrong. Welcome. Thanks for joining A Gut Reaction to Intuitive Decisions. We're going to set the stage of what the Vitality Exchange Collective is, first and foremost. Also, how does it tie into our daily lives as leaders in the decision-making process? So before we start, can we have our coaches introduce themselves briefly?
My name is Jennifer Becker. I am a holistic nutrition counselor and detox coach. I'm a yoga instructor, a hoop dance instructor, and a microgreen farmer. I kind of do all these things to integrate with holistic nutrition so that no stone is left unturned when somebody comes to me for help. If I can't help them, I also work hand in hand with other practitioners so that anything that's going on with this person, my client, we can go down whatever avenue needs to be traveled down to figure out what's the root cause of the issues happening.
I'm Jen Liss. Thanks, Jennifer. This is
Mhm.
the Jen party. I'm Jen Liss, and I am a life coach and breath worker. I have a breathwork membership where we do that regularly called Brilliant Breathwork. And I support people in really seeing the brilliance that is inside of them, deepening their mind body connection, because I notice and I see, and we're going to get into that conversation today, that that is something that a lot of us really struggle with living the life that we truly want to live and welcoming in all of the greatest things that are really possible for us.
I am Shannon Vivar, the director for the Vitality Exchange Collective, which is a growing group of conscious leaders who want to ensure that we're using holistic health and wellness in our everyday lives to have more joy and redefine what success is. And as a matter of fact, both Jen and Jennifer are holistic coaches in our new 90-day conscious leader wellness program, which I'm really excited about. It's more of kind of like a coaching sampler program for people that are looking to tackle a challenge in their lives, redefining leadership, as well as using holistic wellness to improve that. So that's just a little bit about the Vitality Exchange. I'm also the chief operating officer of Mixed Theory Studios, a family owned music and multimedia studio in Jacksonville, Florida. And I also have a background in corporate leadership. So I hope to bring that experience to the conversation. Let's just kick it off. Intuitive decisions. And, from my perspective and experience, especially in business, intuition is seen as kind of an enemy to decision making. And I feel like we've been taught over the years to discount that little voice that you hear from time to time that's nudging you in certain directions. And shutting that part of myself down has impacted my health and well-being, has impacted my ability to make decisions that are good for myself. What is your experience, with using your intuition, whether it be in your daily lives or your businesses? And how do you think that that impacts health and well-being?
Well, something that I think is really interesting to consider for ourselves, just to lay the groundwork for why it matters to listen to your gut, is that we have billions of neurons in our brain, but we have millions of neurons in our gut. So you can think of the gut as the second brain in your body. You actually have neurons in your heart too, but many less. But where our guts are thinking, it is supporting us and sending messages from through our body up the nervous system and to the brain. Your gut is actually more honest than the brain because it doesn't tell stories. It simply reacts to the environment. So in my experience personally, I used to not listen to my gut at all. I would only listen to my brain, and the brain is great. We all know that the brain is doing so many good things for us, and it's thinking and it's solving and it's strategizing, but sometimes it strategizes us out of our healthiest decisions for ourselves. And what you said, Shannon, there, I think is so important, is that often we're thinking about the outside and what the decision that needs to be made for the business or the decision that needs to be made for other people, but we aren't thinking about our own creativity and our own health in those decisions. And ultimately that matters so much, and we see it rippling out into our corporate environments and into our businesses because we aren't considering ourselves and what feels really good to us in our decisions.
I agree. The gut brain axis is connected by a whole network of, Jen, like you mentioned, our nerves, our hormones, our immune system. It all, they work together, right? And so making sure our gut is healthy, make sure that our brain is functioning properly, we're making better decisions. But as you mentioned, Shannon, it's kind of something that's been conditioned out of us. I think, like, starting at a pretty young age, most of us are conditioned to think we're supposed to think the same, right? And as we get older, go through high school, maybe feeling like we don't have to think the way that our friends think, we kind of come into our own. It gets a little bit better, but then if you go into a corporate job like you did for a while, and it's there again in the corporate world where you're taught to think one way and kind of negate the feeling and that little spiritual. I consider it as part of our spiritual antenna or intuition, just knowing what's right and being able to make decisions based on what we feel is right rather than the company.
It's interesting. I think when I would go through the analysis, like in my previous roles, and we'd be framing up the research and the data and trying to like really take a scientific approach to decision making because you're in some instances you're making decisions on behalf of the corporation,
Right.
which is maybe not necessarily, you don't view it as a decision for your personal, and so there's this automatic disconnect regardless. So you would frame it up because you wanted to seek approval a lot of times. So you were always trying to figure out that ultimate decision maker. How do you frame it so that they react in a way that you think is conducive to the best decision for the company, right? And so how that intuition inside you is like more of a personal thing, but you've kind of taken that out of the equation because you're seeking approval for a decision, right? And so everything you do to frame it up is pushing your own personal intuition out of the way, really, to get that approval, and then there's so many emotions that go into the decision-making process, mostly fear. And so when I'm thinking about gut health and that process, right, we start to get into epigenetics and the microbiome and like there's even little organisms in your gut that actually make you feel a certain way. So there's almost a lot of intuition that's going on. It's all jumbled together. So um I find it just an interesting conversation to have is how does intuition, especially in an environment where you're told intuition doesn't belong, how do you parse and parcel those to make healthier decisions, not just for yourself, but also for the company as a whole?
It's so interesting, Shannon, what you say about, it's like we're taking ourselves out of the decision and we're so focused on what that leader how they might react. It's like we're cutting parts of ourselves out. And it's like that is reflected in the larger structure of the way that business runs. And then it ends up running on fear, like you said, instead of on our creativity and what we're excited to be bringing into the world because we're taking that whole part of ourself that gets excited, that is that gut reaction, we're taking it out of the entire process. And then we wonder why we struggle to be creative in the office because we're living in that fear-based way. And that affects our body. It affects our nervous system. It affects the actual drugs that our body is giving ourselves. And it affects so much when we're not listening to our gut.
Agree. Shannon, before we started recording, remember you said that was something that you felt like was missing. I think you said, like, in the corporate world or whatever, something that's missing, just being able to interject our own intuitive thoughts and the decision making process and whatnot. And I've been lucky in that I can do that in my company, in my business. And I've noticed that was a piece that was missing. And so I started doing like team building and having groups, breakout, groups where we can share that with each other. And it has changed a lot. I feel like it has just improved a lot of people's, morale, and it's been great. And I agree that it's something that's missing in that corporate piece.
Well, let's dig into a little bit about that. Like how did you go about implementing that type of a process in your corporate environment? By the way, just in case the audience doesn't know, um, Jennifer Becker is her family owns a railroad
Yeah. I
company.
skipped that little piece because I wear many hats, so I need to work on my elevator speech. But yes, I also co-own a railroad company with my mom and my sister. My dad started the company, and we took over when he passed away. When my father passed away in 2012. So I noticed that it was something that was missing, and I spoke up about it. I said, this is I was missing that creative piece here because it's never been my bag. It's never been my passion, railroading, right? Um, but being a family business, it was always a job that it was like a stepping stone for me over the years so that I could pursue the more creative things that didn't bring home the bacon. But, I was doing the trade shows and more creative things, the website design and all that stuff. And that was great. But I noticed in our employees, though, and I felt it because it is a feeling, right? Intuition isn't something, it's like our sixth sense. You can't see or taste or touch or whatever. It's just there. I could sense that people's morale was low and that we needed something where they had the opportunity to talk about what they think would improve our company and what would make them feel better in this sort of environment. Because and we're kind of notorious for it, actually. Our business is notorious in this industry for having a more family like atmosphere. And it went away a little bit when my dad passed away. He would do lots of cookouts, um, lunches, things like that, where we could all get together and see each other because we spend all day in our offices or, you know, in most places, cubicles. And we don't see each other. So he would always make sure that we would get together. We still do the Friday breakfast, but there was still just something else where like we weren't seeing each other and interacting and talking about how we would improve in certain areas of the company. And so we started doing that. We're doing team building stuff, all different kinds of things. Next month I've got Brandy Lynn with Zen Vita coming in to do a sound bath, and we've done a drum circle, stuff that like maybe people would roll their eyes at, but you do it and they're like, oh my gosh, it was so amazing. And we, in those activities get to sit down and talk to each other and talk about what I just mentioned, all the things.
And have you noticed a difference in productivity in the environment?
Yeah, like I said, morale is just like way better.
And what level do you go all the way down to the lowest level in the organization to bring those thoughts and
I
recommendations up?
don't know what you mean.
Oh, I'm just saying at every level of the organization, or is it just like team building within the leader, group?
Oh,
Or
it's everybody, anybody who wants to join. We open the doors to anybody who would be interested in doing whatever the activity is. Um, we have little sections within the team building stuff, I guess you could say. So there's a round table where you can join a conversation about a specific thing, or if you want one-on-one with me, because I am a certified, nutrition counselor, somebody can come talk to me if they want to. So that's kind of another arm of HR, you could say. But yeah, I think it's helped a lot.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, Jen, you were also part of a employee experience group in your past corporate life. Were you part of any type of activity that brought in discussions around intuition and decision making in leadership?
It wasn't anything that we specifically were focused on at the time, but there were programs that came in that helped people to improve what I call your mind body connection. It's bringing awareness into the physical sensations in your body. And there was an active program that was supporting employees in doing that. And it went from the leaders all the way down to employees and actually mixed leaders and employees into cohorts, which was really cool and seeing really awesome results from it. That program is called the Positive Intelligence Program with Shirzad Shamin, and it's available and a lot of people use it. And I've gone through the program myself a couple of times. So we did do that, and we saw that people were having really great results from that. So yes, nothing specifically on intuitive decision making, but we can't make intuitive decisions unless we have a connection to the physical sensations that are in our bodies, because that's how we listen to our intuition, is through felt sense. And when we've cut ourselves off from feeling that felt sense for so long, and we haven't been listening to ourselves, and we've been like, that doesn't matter. What matters is the thoughts. What matters is the strategies. What matters is helping them to forming my whatever I'm pitching to leadership so that they will like it. And it has nothing to do with what I think is good or bad. When we cut that off for so long, we have no connection to our intuition. And that was me. That was me for most of my life. It has been a process of coming back home to my intuition and understanding at the very base level. I would order food at a restaurant, and I would order something, and then I would sit there and fester on, did I order the right thing? Should I have gotten the enchiladas? Oh my God, I got the taco. Oh my gosh, what if it comes and it's not good? Like, I couldn't make a decision and feel sound about the decision to that level because I just wasn't in connection with myself. And I don't remember the last time that I ordered something and then festered over it now, because I simply make a decision, and then whatever whatever I get is what I get, and then I get to have that experience. And I know a lot of people struggle with that, right? It's like, what is the right decision
Yes.
to make?
Hmm.
I
Yes.
think that's why people go to the same things on the menu. It's like once you find something you like and you go to that restaurant, you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to have.
Because your decision is actually based on fear of ordering the wrong thing, right? And so it's this realization that nothing is wrong. You're going to get to have maybe a new experience of trying the enchiladas, and okay, they weren't that great. Like, it's not, excuse me, it's not the end of the world, but our mind will tell us it's the end of the world because we've had all these experiences based on fear.
Thinking about these types of small decisions, right? Because most people would say this is a small decision. Like we kind of revert back to that unconscious decision making, right?
Yeah.
Because it takes brain power to make a conscious decision.
It feels unconscious, but it's subconscious. Like we know it's the right thing, but we're not questioning it anymore. It's natural. It comes naturally. And the more you practice, I think the more you build on it. And there's all these tools now. And I like to say social media is a double-edged sword because it can hinder our intuition. But I think that there's also, things like investing in vitality and all these other, these teachers that have all the tools like tarot card reading will help with intuition. Essential oils I mean, there's just all these things, right? It's on social media, and maybe somebody wouldn't normally have access to that. So you can build upon it. But like you said, it's just, and I like what you said, Jen, about coming home to your intuition. I've heard that, I think it's like the second time this week that I've heard coming home to that innate ability to just not freak out, not stress out about making a decision and just going with it. It's going with the flow. Once you build that intuition up, it's just going with the flow. Yesterday, I was with my husband and my daughter. We were going somewhere for dinner, and I turned right to take the long way there. And I was waiting on my husband to say, "Why are you going this way?" But I just felt like I needed to go that way. We get 2 minutes down the road on that, going that direction, and there was a frame broken down on the side of the road. And I said, I knew it. I knew there was a reason why I had to go this way. But
You said a frame?
a friend was
Oh, a
broken down.
friend. It's like there's a frame broken on the side of the road.
It's my country accent, Shannon. My friend. My
Well,
friend was
I'm
broken
sure
down
your
on the side of
your
the road.
friend was happy to see you then.
Yeah. But I was just, I just knew there was a reason why I had to go that way. Anyway,
That
it's
a lot of times that people don't believe that their intuition is right. And you're right. Maybe it's not not right or wrong. And trying to get people to stop thinking in terms of right or wrong.
yeah.
It's just going with what you're being told is the way to go.
You're blowing up. You've got fireworks going on your screens.
We we had an aha moment.
Yeah, wow. But that goes back to the health bit, I think, because if you're not taking care of your gut, that creates all kinds of mental and physical issues, right? And we just talked about the gut brain connection. So that's why maybe, that creates anxiety and doubt and fear and all those things. So we're operating from that parasympathetic nervous system, or sympathetic. I mean, I get those two confused all the time. Your fight or flight, where you're making decisions based on what you think somebody else might want to hear or whatever. So I didn't take that left because I thought that's the way my husband would have wanted me to go. I just took the right because it felt right in the moment. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I take care of my gut. So yeah, I think that the health part of it is has a lot to do with it. It's everything.
You mentioned though taking on other people's ideas as your
Mhm,
own, right?
mhm.
And in past conversations with you, meditation has been one of the tools that you have sought to clear your mind so that you can make sure that what you're thinking is from yourself versus, other influences in the environment. Now, both of you are pretty deep into meditation and breath work in your lines. So, what are the techniques that you have found work best for you and also your clients in helping to kind of clear the mind and really truly sit with yourselves?
I'll be curious to hear what your techniques are. For me and my clients, breath work. And it's why I offer breath work. It's why I teach breath work. It can really support people, especially if you're early in a meditative journey and you haven't done a lot of meditation. Using your breath. I mean, in most meditations, they at some point have you focus on your breath. Focusing on your breath, it's an internal thing that is actively happening in your body. You can hear it, you can feel it, you can sense it. And so it brings you home to yourself, as we mentioned earlier. But when we do active breath and really move some energy, if we look at it at a spiritual level, it's clearing the chakras, it's physically moving energy through your body and clearing pathways so that if you have any disconnect from the brain down into the body, you feel safe to do it. So when we talk about it from a scientific perspective with the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, as you were mentioning, Jen, we can't be in full intuitive connection with ourselves when we're in the sympathetic. When we're in that fight, flight, freeze, we can't be fully connected to ourselves. We connect in the parasympathetic when we're in
Mhm.
that rest and digest, when we have a calming sensation in our body that activates the part of our brain that can make creative decisions, that can think creatively. We can't think creatively when we're in the sympathetic. So, breath work is a means of getting us to that state of physically using breath, using activating breath to shift our nervous system. So, for me and my clients, that works the best. It's been the game changer for me, and it helps me get into a meditative state.
Yes, I agree. It's breath work is like an anchor for people who are just getting started with meditation. It's like a very grounding in your body thing that you can start with. I always like to start with a technique called Nadi Shodhana, or alternate nostril breathing. It's where you close off your right nostril. You probably know. You inhale through your left, exhale through your left, and then vice versa. You go side to side, and it balances your left and right brain, your yin and yang, your hot and cold, all the opposing forces in your body. Sort of balances out and helps you, you know, like I said, ground, feel more focused. Some people, it has an energizing effect. Some people, it helps them rest to go to sleep. So it just takes some practice to find out if it works for you for one of those things or the other. Box breathing is another one that I like to use. Actually, using sound music helps with a lot of times, or guided meditations, because to tell somebody that doesn't have a practice to just go and sit and clear your head, it never works, right? So to have somebody that's walking you through maybe a guided meditation, they're taking you on a journey somewhere, and when you're done with, say, it's like even just 5 minutes, like, wow, why do I feel so much better? It's because you're not in that. You've been able to turn off that monkey mind brain where you're thinking about your to-do list and worrying about, everything that, maybe if you have anxiety, something you said 2 days ago, whatever it is. So breath work is It's the anchor. It's a good start. And then just practicing, making an effort to set a timer for 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, and then working your way up. And before you know it, you're hooked. I've had clients tell me that it completely changed their lives. They share it with their friends, they share it with their family. And some people, it's like a take it or leave it thing. But I really think that it takes commitment to build that meditation practice. And that helps with the intuition.
Yeah, I just got off a call with a client who she just moved. She just moved houses. That's a stressful situation, right?
Oh,
You've
yeah.
got multiple children and you're moving. And we normally do breath work and meditation together. It was her first time back to it for a while. And she said, "Oh my goodness, I didn't realize how much in that monkey mind I've been for the past 2 weeks." And
Mhm.
coming back to this was like this huge aha, wow, I can think clearly. We breathed together for 10 minutes, by the way. It was not a long
Mhm.
session. We took 10 minutes together to
Sometimes 10
breathe and
minutes
to
feels
focus.
like an hour.
It's true.
Yes.
True.
Yep.
I
True
think
that.
there's disbelief in some sense that breathing can actually have such a significant impact on your health and well-being because, I mean, you breathe all the time. And we do a lot of shallow breathing. And until you start doing some of these breathing techniques and exercises, which is, there's a lot of them, a lot of different types. I don't think that people comprehend the actual physical impact that that can actually have. And it is trying to put that constant reminder in your daily calendar or whatnot to be like, okay, I need to pause. I need 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And I've been trying to do it in the morning when I wake up and also right before I go to bed. But I know that there's times that I should be doing that, carving it out in the middle of the day where I could just stop doing what I'm doing and take a little breather um to kind of reset um that nervous system in my the way wherever I'm feeling at the time. So I will do that if I'm super anxious or if there's something that's really troubling me just because I mean, then I'm actually jolted into the fact that that I'm having an issue. But I think actually doing it on a more regular basis and setting a timer or something or a calendar reminder would be a healthy practice.
Another thing to think about, though, for anybody listening, that it might not be a sit down, quiet your mind thing for you. I've worked with women, 6 months at a time that just can't build that practice of, the sitting down meditation. So for them, it turns into walking or some sort of movement meditation, cooking. Cooking a meal can be meditative for some people. Anything that gets you out of that spiral of thoughts that can make you crazy.
I
It
agree with
doesn't have
that.
to.
Adding,
Mhm.
oh, sorry, Jen.
Go
Just
ahead.
backing up what you said there, that
Mhm.
I love to do breath work while walking. I do
Mhm.
breath work and I meditate while walking, and there's plenty of those that you can find on the internet if you're curious to at least
Mhm.
try it and sample it out. So if anybody's curious to give that a go, and one of the breaths that I think is so supportive when you're walking is to do 2 breaths in and 2 breaths out. So 2 into the nose and 2 out through the mouth. And doing that rhythmic breath, marathoners do it to help bring their mind into the present moment so that they're not focused on pain, because if you're in the past or you're in the future, you're focused on pain, but if you're right now in the present moment, the more present we can get, the less there is. So that's why marathoners will use that breath pattern to support them in coming into the present. And so the same can be true to us. Like the any spiraling that we're doing on something that happened throughout the day, or any spiraling that we're doing about things that we wish could be living in the future, you can use a breath pattern like that to pull you fully back into the present. It's really, really powerful and super easy. Can do it anytime.
Yes.
You can just pull it out, even just a few breaths.
Yep.
Well, I think that that's one of the things that leaders, regardless if you're leading people or just leading yourself in life, right, should take into consideration is that just like an athlete needs peak performance and they do conditioning and they do exercises, and it doesn't always have to be physical running or even, walking. It's not a super physical task, but there are things that you should be doing to kind of help condition your body to make better decisions. And it also is the ability to listen to what you're saying is, satisfaction inside of you and trying to delineate that difference between how you're reacting versus how your environment is making you react. So I think it's a good reminder that we all should be striving for peak performance and finding those little things that actually affect our personal being the greatest. And it might be different than other people's go-tos.
Absolutely. Everybody's different.
Yes, because I can't run. I hate running.
Definitely not suggesting everybody needs to be a marathoner.
Um,
Oh my goodness. I know that we have about 5 more minutes scheduled. I wanted to take a few minutes just to say that in 2 weeks, we have another one of these conversations with 2 coaches, Sandra D. Johnson from the Maticel Group and Wolf Castillo. We're going to be talking about a key to thriving relationships. And I think it's been interesting having some pre-conversations with them about how they view what a thriving relationship is. And there might be some controversy in those definitions, and I love it. So I want to know what's your opinion on what makes a thriving relationship, whether it's relationship with yourself or others or with things.
The word that comes to mind for me is connection and real connection. I think a lot of us are living, and my husband and I, we've been together since we were 17. And in the past year, since we started doing breathwork and meditation together, we have had a deepening of our connection at a whole new level. Our relationship has shifted more in the past year than it has over the past 20 together. And it's really knowing yourself and being able to feel vulnerable. And it's like the hardest word to say. We always joke about that. And we're like, why do we keep saying this word that is so hard to say? It's so vulnerable to say the word vulnerable. But we have to be vulnerable with ourselves in order to be vulnerable with other people. And so I think that's at the core, is that self-connection before you can fully have a deep relationship connection with another human.
I agree. And as far as what was the word you used, Shannon? What kind of relationship?
A thriving relationship.
Thriving. So I think it's important to know that you can have a thriving relationship and then there's going to be ebbs and flows, right? So, well, it might not be thriving all the time. You have these ups and downs, and like Jen and her husband, I've been with mine since I was 17 also. So
Wow.
it's just important, I think, to note that there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and that I really think that there just has to be this an energetic, so we're all energetic beings, right? I think that, like Jen said, to know yourself first and to have that authentic pull to somebody will create a thriving relationship for the most part.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on intuitive decisions or the gut?
I would like to mention that detoxing is, it's a big part of what I do, and that it scares a lot of people, the word detox. But in my program, it's very attainable. It's super doable for moms, for people in a bunch of different dynamics. I'm vegan. My husband and my son eat meat. My daughter's pescatarian. I mean, we have a crazy dynamic in my house, but we do it together. And I created this program because of that, because I work with women, and a lot of times they've just got this crazy, oh, I can't do it. Don't have the time commitment or whatever. But it's so important because if, like we said, if your gut's not online, then your mental and your physical isn't going to be. So we have to give our bodies a break from all the chemicals and bombardment of everything that's in our food, our environment. And I talk about all that stuff in my groups. And I know we're doing one with investing in vitality, I think in November. Is that correct? Or it changed?
The 90-day Conscious Leader Wellness Program does give them access to a detox group, and then they can do it with you whenever you're doing your groups. Each participant will be able to spend one-on-one with Jennifer talking about nutrition and how that's impacting their lives. to get prepared for that 5-day detox group coaching session as well. So
Right. So I know what direction to take it for you because it can go down. I, like I said, I like to focus on the word holistic because we talk about all the different aspects, all the different dimensions, mental, physical, relational, spiritual, all those things. So if we have a one-on-one and you want to talk about, you want to go down this avenue as far as how detoxing helps in that area, that's what we're going to focus on. So anyways, I just wanted to mention that little tidbit.
no, that's
Doing
great.
doing a detox might sound scary, but it's super important to get your gut health back in line if it's out of whack.
Jen, any last parting thoughts on intuition, intuitive? I know that you have a conversation with your clients on intuitive leadership as well. So, any words of wisdom that you provide your clients would be welcome.
Yeah, it's intuitive leadership, intuitive listening, intuitive decision making. It's all a felt sense. It involves feeling. And the feelings that you have, actually, those happen before the thoughts. A feeling that your body has, your gut has, travels up your brain and it influences all things that influences your thoughts. So think about that. Your gut is actually more honest than the brain because it's happening here first, traveling up your body and going to the brain and helping you then make a decision. So if that helps you make that connection between why your gut matters, that felt sense really, really matters. If you don't feel, we can't consciously like intercept that and understand how we actually like feel about something that kind of matters, right? How you feel about something matters and it influences your decisions. So, what I do is help people come in and feel those things in a safe way. If we've been cut off from all of those kinds of sensations in our bodies for the longest time, then we have to learn how to safely come back in and feel those. And there's lots of reasons that you might not be feeling your feelings. That's normal in this society that we don't feel our feelings because of all the reasons. So, what I do is help people come back in, have compassion for all the reasons that we might not have listened to our own gut to this point, release the shame from all of that so that we can start to listen. And when you really start to listen to yourself, you can align your life to you, align a life that's true to you. And if you're a leader, you can run your business, you can help run the business that you're working for in a way that's in alignment for you, which is ultimately better for everyone. If we look at it from a holistic approach, if we have human beings running businesses who are all coming from a place of true alignment with what they truly believe, we're going to be making better businesses and better decisions in the world. You'll be a better leader. So that's ultimately what I help people to do, but it starts with feeling our feelings. And I help people do that with breathwork.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I have a conversation this Friday with a chiropractor that does an emotional technique chiropractic thing because we're going to be talking about how emotions get stuck in your body. And sometimes those gut feelings are based off of stored emotions from an experience that you had years and years and years ago, and that you don't even know is impacting the way you're feeling. And it's the reason why people get triggered by certain imagery or phrases. When they listen to other people, they have this reaction to somebody's energy. They don't really understand why, and it's because these stored emotions in the body. So I'm really super excited to have a conversation this Friday with Dr. Megan Longyear. She was also on the women's wellness panel, but we're going to really
Mhm.
dive deep into kind of her expertise. And so, yeah, if you want more conversations with just very fascinating, interesting people, join the Vitality Exchange. It's free. And there's a lot of recorded conversations that I've had with lots of different interesting people. Some of them make it on the podcast, Investing in Vitality. Right now, we're between seasons. Season 2 doesn't kick off really until the fall, but we're continuing to have these conversations with professionals. I want to thank both Jen and Jennifer for joining me
Thank you.
today on this conversation about healthy gut, intuition, decision making, and conscious leadership. And I'm looking forward to having more of these conversations. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll talk again.